Madeline is a very different kind of person. She enjoys running, writes during her free time, and had to be persuaded to go to the Super Bowl. Although I find all these things insane, the most notable thing about Madeline is her kindness. I know that I can always turn to her no matter what, and no matter how far apart we are next year, she will always have my back. Madeline, I will miss our quick center runs and you dragging me to workout classes next year. Wherever you end up, we'll be lucky to have you.
Maddie, I can't wait to see what awesome adventures you're going to have going forward. The things I've always admired most about you are your passion for writing, your love of reading, and your appreciation for good coffee. While I'm going to miss our coffee stops before school next year, I'm excited for you to go off to new adventures.
Introducing my best friend,
My sister,
Madeline Silton.
Those are the best shoes I have ever seen.
Last year during AP US History, Mr. Ruderman asked us to write about two women that we admire. One that we know and one that we don't know. While writing about a woman I didn't know proved to be a much harder feat than anticipated, writing about one that I did know was easy. I knew I would write about my mom. My mom is a successful antitrust lawyer, but her success isn't something that came without hard work, and as a woman it was even harder. While men dominate women in most law fields, complex litigation is an even more male-dominated field. My mom is frequently one of the only women in the room at hearings, in court, and at conferences. She's also had to stick up for herself when she has been paid significantly less than her male colleagues, despite working just as hard, if not harder, than many of them. While simultaneously making her own place in her firm and profession, she's also mentored other female employees and is an ally for her colleagues when they want raises that they deserve. For these reasons, writing about my mom was an easy decision. Having such an immensely powerful woman leader in my life is something I often take for granted, and I sometimes forget that she puts on another mask at work. We have a joke at home that if she ever has to negotiate something, she uses her lawyer voice, which she somehow manages to change in tone and seriousness. Despite occasionally seeing glimpses of her badass nature, I do see her more as mom than lawyer. But even so, she inspires me to emulate her hard work and persistence, which leads me to confront male-dominated fields. This summer and over this past year, I have found myself being more and more involved in film and commercial productions. I've always known I wanted to be a writer and be involved in something creative, so when I was offered to be a production assistant on a large-scale commercial set for Best Buy, I eagerly accepted the offer. For my first commercial with Best Buy, call time was 6:30 and the set was about 45 minutes away. So I woke up at 5:30 and drove out to a house that was literally in the middle of a field of wheat. Despite working for nearly 12 hours, I had a blast. I really felt like I belonged on set. I was the youngest person on set as a 16-year-old and one of only 4 women, all of which were PAs, on a 25-person crew. However, I didn't particularly notice this, as I'd never felt belittled by any of the people on set, despite my age or gender. But there was a definitive hierarchy on this large-scale production set where the PAs sat at their own table while the director's producer and director of photography sat at another. There's also a well-known phrase that at lunch or dinner breaks, PAs eat last. Fast forward 3 commercial sets later for Best Buy and Target Corporation, I found myself on my first short film set. Unlike my previous experiences on set, where I was one of only a few women, this director had purposely put together an almost entirely female production crew. This production consisted of 2 consecutive all-night shoots, with call time at 6 p.m. and wrap at 9 a.m. Maybe it was just the communal sleep deprivation, but there was a much higher sense of camaraderie. Because it was a smaller scale set, I got to work more actively in several different roles besides the cinematographer, sound director, and director. For these reasons, I was able to get closer to the camera where I felt like I truly belonged. While these experiences created immense excitement for my potential future in film, I also became disheartened by new facts I learned about the industry. My research brought up the alarmingly few amount of women in film and the even fewer that receive notable distinction for their work. In fact, women only comprise 8% of directors, 10% of writers, and 2% of cinematographers, and only 1 woman has ever won Best Director at the Oscars. This made me question my place in an industry that seems to value men over women. How am I supposed to break into writing or directing when women seem to face different pressures and expectations than their male counterparts? Thinking back to my experience on the commercial sets, I also question the hierarchical nature of the productions. If the women are the PAs sitting at their own table and eating last, how are we supposed to make positive connections in an effort to move forward in the industry? Even more alarming came the rise of the Me Too movement, where many established and looked up to actresses and women in film have revealed that previously well-respected men in film have harassed and assaulted them, and they stayed silent because they wanted to move forward in the industry. This profession I was so excited about almost a year before became a frightening scene of underrepresented women and a danger ground for assault and harassment. So now what, I asked myself. It would be all too easy to find a different career path, one that doesn't have statistics that prove it is so hard to find a place there. But if I did this, I would lose the immense fun I have when running around at odd hours in the morning or night, and I would lose the creative energy I feel when immersing myself in a new or different visual world. For these reasons, I want to persist in this industry. Throughout my life, and guided by my role models like my mom, I have been taught never to run away from challenges. Sometimes this means expending far more effort than if I had taken an easier way out, but then I never would have grown or been shaped by these experiences. I have seen my mom thrive in a profession that statistically isn't in her favor, which has driven me to ignore statistics and odds and take a leap to see what will happen. While the issues that are extremely prevalent in the film industry are not to be ignored, the only way to change these statistics is to defy them. These statistics imply that women do not belong in the industry. By defying these statistics, I can refuse to become another negative data point. The way things are isn't how they have to be. Gender equality is only one of the many fights for equality in our world, and there is a long way to go. There are also lots of other equally important fights and marginalized groups that need to be addressed. All of us in this room have the capacity to make change, but it's up to us to take action. Thank you.